Hey everybody, welcome to Facebook Live. I am with Jody Bach. I want to talk to you about Jody a little bit. Jody is one of my favorite presenters. I have had the pleasure of being in her classes before. She's an author, and we actually met at Keller Williams when Jody was a team leader. And Jody, I don't remember. I think we met through Ashley. I'm not sure.
Probably.
But I think I remember walking into a place in Austin, and there you were with your OP, and you jumped up and introduced yourself. That's what it was.
Right. But you know what? You were sitting in back of me at an event, at one of the first national events I went to, and I knew of you. And I went, oh my gosh, Lori Ballen's in back of me. Oh, can I talk to her? It was so funny because I was new to my position, but you weren't new to me. So I think that was the first time I ever had a conversation with you. And then after that, it became really easy. We showed up in the same place a lot of times.
Isn't that funny the way we do that too? I remember when I first got to Keller Williams, I had all these celebrities, that I just was so like, oh my gosh, I'm nudging the person next to me. Look at that. And now we're all friends, It's like we're all just regular people, but for some reason there's that kind of thing that just happened. So
I know, that's funny.
Anyway, so it's been a true pleasure to get to know you and spend time with you. And just so everybody knows, Jody's with me today because I put a Facebook post out the other day, and you guys might have seen it. And let me see, I don't know if I'm able to type that in anywhere. I'm using new software, so I'm still trying to figure this out. So I'm going to, let's see if I can read it off here. It was about deciding to act. Hold on. Grab it again. I don't know if you guys know this. It's so cool how you can search on Facebook. Okay, there it is. All right. So my post was, we have to decide that we deserve better. We deserve better in our relationships, in our financial flow, in our physical being, in our work. The decision followed by massive action brings on positive change. And when one area of your life improves, other areas follow. Decide plus act. And Jody popped in there, and I always love Jody's. Jody, I love your commentary and your individual posts that you post every day that are so motivational and really spot on. So Jody's response, Jody, do you remember your response, or do you want me to read it?
No, go ahead and read it. I remember, but go ahead.
Okay. So Jody says, decide, in all caps, decide comes from the same root as pesticide, homicide, etc. It means to kill off the other options. D-TO, side, the act of killing. We've been conditioned to always have a backup plan if our true dream and desire doesn't happen. Desire, the DE, meaning to, and sire, meaning birth. Desire equals to birth. Your burning desire is going to happen unless you allow other junk to get in the way, as long as it doesn't impede the rights of others. So Jody, talk to us a little bit about that commentary, because it was so spot on. It registered with all of us. You got tons of likes and hearts and comments. So talk to us about that a little bit.
It's so funny because I've been studying personal development for probably my whole life, but really formally since 2003. And one of the first books I really picked up was Think and Grow Rich. And Think and Grow Rich is a classic book. And if you haven't read it, I would highly suggest you put it on your reading list for 2019. But it was written in 1937, published in 1937, after 20 years of research by Napoleon Hill. And back in 2006, I rediscovered it, and I went to work with Bob Proctor for a couple of years. And Bob Proctor is a guru in the self-development area. And I learned from him that desire, exactly what you just read, desire and decision are really important parts of achieving anything you want to achieve. And we're never given a dream or a goal or a plan or anything without also being given the opportunity to make it happen. We just have to stick with it. And so Think and Grow Rich, the book that I study, I should show it to you. I don't know if you can all see it. It's falling apart.
Wow.
Pages are falling out of it because I've just got, I've been reading it for so long. But in this book, there's a whole chapter on decision, and there's also a whole chapter on burning desire. So these two things are elemental parts of anything you want to achieve. And so the book has become kind of my go-to for everything. And so I learned that the desire and the decision from Think and Grow Rich. So I can tell you more, but go ahead.
That is fascinating because I've never heard it put that way. And it's funny, I was just coaching my team the other day about, we have this really pivotal shift happening in our empire right now. And a lot of it does come to the pivotal shift that's happening in the real estate industry as a general rule. Are you affiliated at all anymore with the real estate industry, Jody?
Not specifically. So now I expanded to include all industries. So okay. I do work with real estate agents, but I'm not specifically involved.
So, but you're a coach and an author as well. So you're just kind of work with a lot of different verticals, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So I was talking to my team the other day, and what's happening is, I'm an open book. I'm always really honest, and sometimes that makes me a target when I talk about the things that I'm doing, and people get the misconception that I'm doing too many things at once when actually it's one thing all the time. It's just a perception thing. But anyway, as this shift is taking place, I'm working really hard to get my team on board to shift with me, right? And I was telling them the other day, I go, you guys, we have to burn the boats.
Yes.
And that's the phrase that I know where it comes to when you decide you kill off all other options is exactly spot on. It is a decision. It is not an option. Decide it is. So when I decided to change my health and my weight and my physical being last year, right at this time, this was the day I decided last year to do this. I said, on January 1st, I am just going to get rid of all this extra weight that I put on. I'm going to get rid of all this divorce guilt pounds and fat, whatever. And I'm just done being sick and tired and heavy. And I'm just going to go do it, period, end of story. And it was 100% a decision. There was no option. Burn the boats. This is happening. And for me, burning the boats, kill off all other options means you get rid of everything that's in your kitchen. You don't, no junk food anywhere, no, whatever it is. Same with when I quit smoking. I walked out my carton of cigarettes and threw it out to the garbage man. And it's a decision.
Yeah.
But if you keep this little, well, if it doesn't work out, I have this plan. Or if not, we can always do this. You haven't decided. Would you agree?
I would totally agree because we don't know how to do it. Why do you suppose Napoleon Hill put one of the 13 principles of success being decision? Because not everybody does it. Because we always have backup plans. We always have our feet in two places. We've been taught not to put all our eggs in one basket, right? We've been taught that, conditioned that. But yet the people who are most successful are the ones who make decisions quickly and change their minds slowly. And so it's no surprise that the people like you, the people who make that decision and you see those results of that decision are the ones who other people look at and go, wow, what did you do? When it's all available to them too. It's not like I'm not going to say you're not a guru, Lori, because you are. You're amazing. I follow you. I love that. But everybody can do that.
Yes.
You're such a great example because you did it so that you can show other people what they can do. Physical health is so obvious because it looks great off you, actually. That weight looks great off you, Lori.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. And so you show by your example in physical terms what a decision can do. And so I love that you said that. You threw everything out. You said there's no going back. I'm burning the boats. Do you know where that comes from, burning the boats?
I don't remember.
This chapter 7 in Think and Grow Rich.
No kidding.
No kidding. No kidding. It's all about a battle where they said if you were going to, I could actually find it if I looked closely enough here, but it was exactly what he said in a war battle where we're going to land on this island and we're not going back. We're either going to die on the island or we're going to burn the boats and we're going to win here. And that's what happened. So it's exactly what happened here.
And I think then the follow-up to that, the decision has to be, in my opinion, made before there's even a plan. Before you necessarily even know what you're going to do, you're making the decision. And I'm one of those people that I really, really believe that when you put your intentions into the universe, voice, thoughts, written, dreams, journals, all of that, that the universe conspires to make it true, good or bad.
Yes.
And
yes.
that's why we have to be really careful about the thoughts and the things that we put out there into the universe. It's not that we're never going to have a negative thought, but we can cancel that out really quickly. And if our mind and our words and our language is full of doubt and full of, the potential of failure, that's just as likely to become true as the thoughts of success and being and putting those right things into motion. I think there's a lot of fear-based individuals that have the right intention. They want things to go a certain way, but their fear will stop them from taking that action. I know in my case, let's talk that when I launched my keto weight loss program, which was insane the way it happened and how fast it happened. And for those who didn't watch, I'll just share with you that after shedding 50 pounds myself in 6 months, I am naturally a teacher trainer, so I want to teach other people to do things or influence other people to do things, but I definitely have the teaching element as well. And so people were constantly messaging me and asking me for months, how are you doing this? And I'm sending them worksheets and guidance and sending them to YouTube channels. And one day I just put out there on Facebook, I'm considering becoming certified as a coach. Would anybody be interested? And the response was ridiculously astronomical. And this was on Friday or Thursday. Maybe it was Thursday. No, it was Friday. And somebody messaged me and said, May 1st is 2 days away, and I would like you to do this because I want to start on the 1st. And I'm like, oh, I don't even know what this program is going to be. I don't have any clue what I'm going to do yet with it. Well, I don't care. I'm willing to pay, and I want to be in this group on May 1st. Now, the fear-based individual might not actually launch or take action because they've got a million doubts about how it's going to be successful or what they're going to do or how it's going to play out or whatever. Where in my case, I just said, okay, this could fail miserably. I might fall flat on my face in front of thousands and thousands of people. I might not get more than 1 or 2 clients, and it might not continue. Of course, I had those little bleep thoughts for a minute. Sure. But then I immediately said, and I'm still going to go do this, and I'm going to give it everything I've got, and we're going to see what it does. And on Monday, over the weekend, I got certified as a keto coach, spent the whole weekend just taking classes and all of that. I knew the material, so it was pretty simple to pass it through. And then I contacted my team and said, I need a website, I need a database, I need a whatever. Fortunately, I had a great team to whip all that up for me. And on Monday, I started taking clients, and I had 100 clients by the end of the week.
Wow.
Clients that has never stopped. It has not let up. It has been ridiculous. And I think it was exactly what you and I are talking about. I just made the decision to do it. I didn't assign attachments to, I have a cat trying to get on my lap right now. I didn't assign attachments to what it was going to mean or any kind of necessary expectations. And I just did it. Now, granted, the first couple months were hell months. I mean, all of a sudden I found myself like, oh my gosh, I need to build a system and I need to learn more and and I wasn't sleeping and I'm doing all this stuff. And that's perfect. That's okay. Because, once it all leveled out, it became really simple and now it's just really cool. But it was that decision and that action. So give us your thoughts on the action after the decision.
It's funny because the decision really makes no difference unless there's action. Insight without action makes no difference because you can be the smartest person in the world in your head, but if you have nothing to show for it, it really doesn't matter. To know and not to do is the same as not to know. So taking any step, it doesn't even have to be a giant step. You are unusual. Let's just be honest. You are unusual that something can happen that quickly because that's just who I've known you to be in whatever area you've been in, marketing, in real estate, whatever it might be. So people that are listening to this, please don't get intimidated and think you have to be like Lori Ballen and do everything on a million, point scale. If you just take one step in the direction of your dream, the universe conspires to make it happen. You said that. And so it's not about being perfect.
Right.
You said the first 2 months, which I would say in some cases might be 2 years, you guys. It's not necessarily going to happen in 2 months, although it could. It certainly could. When you make a decision, things can happen. What I learned from Proctor when I was working with him, we know that it takes 47 days for a carrot seed to go from seed to carrot. We know that. It's 47 days.
Wow.
But with any dream or desire we plant in the universe, we don't know. We don't know how long it will take. It could be in Think and Grow Rich. There's a story about a guy who needed $1 million, and he needed $1 million back in the 20s, 10s. I mean, that's a lot of money, and he didn't know how it was going to happen, but he had a burning desire for this project he was working on, and he gave a sermon in a church. And after that sermon, one guy walked up to the front of the church and said, "I've got your $1 million right here." So it can happen that quickly when you get really focused on what you want. So he had to take action. He couldn't just think about it at home, in his house going, "Yeah, wouldn't it be nice if?" Because a lot of times we get stuck in the "wouldn't it be nice if?" And then that is also our limiting belief saying, "Yeah, but it could never happen for me." And those subconscious limiting beliefs that we don't even know are there are what sometimes prevent us from taking action. So you made a really good point earlier when you said start at, even if you don't have the plan completely perfect. And so on what the version of the book that I read, which is page 28, there's a 6-step formula for success, and it's in the chapter on desire. And so first you have to fix in your mind exactly what you want. So for you, you had an idea that you wanted to create a keto coaching program. So you had an idea, you knew kind of what it was. The second one is determine exactly what you intend to give. There's no such thing as something for nothing. And one thing I'm learning is you can't give time in exchange for something because you don't own time. Time just is what it is. So you had to be willing to give expertise, and you had to be willing to give other things you might have spent that weekend doing to be focused on getting certified. So for you, you gave up something in exchange for what you wanted to do to become a keto coach. The third one is establish a definite date when you intend to have this goal. And for you, maybe it was Monday. I mean, that's pretty quick. So for you, that's really quick. The fourth one is create a definite plan for carrying out your desire and begin at once, whether you are ready or not.
Love that.
To put this plan into action. And that's what you did. You took action. You went out and found this, maybe you already had it, but this program that you were going to be part of to get certified. The fifth point, now I don't know if you did this, Lori, but the fifth point in Think and Grow Rich is write out a clear, concise statement of what you intend to acquire, name the time limit for its acquisition, state what you intend to give in return for it, and describe clearly the plan through which you intend to accumulate it. So they're saying you need to write it down. Because then the sixth point is read that written statement aloud twice daily, once just before retiring at night and once after arising in the morning. You may not have done that because you kind of short-circuited it, because for you, it was already there. It sounds like it was already planted. But for people who are journeying into something they're not familiar with, here's the key point to that sixth point. As you read this statement, see and feel and believe yourself already in possession of whatever it is you want. So you have to put emotion behind it. And that emotion has to be toward it, not away from what you don't want.
Right.
And
right.
That's what
go
desire.
Towards the positive feeling of what you do want, not the negative feeling of what you don't want. I see people all the time on Facebook say, "I am not sick, I'm not sick, I'm not sick." And I'm like, you just made yourself sick.
Absolutely.
Opposite of the affirmation that you want to be saying. And go ahead.
I was just going to say we're conditioned to know what we don't want way before we know what we do want. So it makes sense that we would be in the not space. I get it.
But we have to retrain our thought process so that we're not giving that energy.
Right. You said earlier you can cancel it.
Yeah, you can cancel it. You go right behind it and put the right thoughts into the universe. And it's so funny. I was just doing this yesterday morning. I have this I get chills when I even think about it. I have this massive desire to travel, go see all my family graveyards and history. I want to clean the gravestones and bring flowers, and I want to see where my family members all walked and went to church and where they lived and built a tree and the history. And I know that I need to get in that space where I am thinking I'm there already, feeling it. What does it feel like to be there? Is it cold? Is it warm? Is the sun shining? Who's around me? What are there cars? Are there, like get that whole visualization, because every time I do that, it manifests, whatever that is. And the same thing if you do the opposite. If I sit there and go, oh my gosh, poor me, this is bad. I don't have any money. I can't pay my bills. What? You just attract more lack.
You've been there though, haven't you? You've been there. I've heard your story. You've been in that place of, I don't have, poor me.
I have been, well, I don't live in the poor me, but oh my gosh, have I been in that situation?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I know you don't live there now, but before, from what I remember of your story, you had a lot of debt and you had things that happened to you. And nothing means anything except when we put meaning to it. Right? So when we say, oh, it's so bad to be in the cold. I live in North Dakota and it's cold. I mean, it is, but it's December and that's what we expect, and I have people who say, how can you live there? It's so cold. Well, I have contrast to show me what I do prefer. It's not that there's bad and good for me. There's what is, and I choose. And if I don't like the cold, I'll move to Las Vegas where it's warm. Yeah. It's so funny how we get stuck in what's wrong instead of what's right.
Well, I'll tell you, that was one of the elements that actually ended up having me in divorce, was that kind of thought process of, I'm looking at how do we make life better? How do we grow? How do we whatever? And in the marriage, I was hearing a lot of the doomsday victim type of, this is what is happening in our lives. And I remember saying that the one thing I heard that I just could not get, I never could get out of my head, was my ex-husband said to me after we were having so many problems, he said, you're being really nice and I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I go, stop waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yes.
Because it will, if you're constantly dwelling on what could happen when things are going good, you're going to bring the thing back. I mean, not to say that, but those are just elements of, thing. And I remember after I got divorced, I don't remember who it was that said it. I think it was Tony Robbins. I heard from Tony Robbins said exactly what you just said, and it changed everything. Because after I got divorced, this is 2 years ago now, for those who are just watching, I got really depressed, like dark depressed. And in my family, we've got 22 suicides. It is a really dangerous thing in that dark zone. And it was when I watched Tony Robbins, and he said exactly what you just said about things only mean something when you assign it that meaning. And I go, oh my gosh, I'm doing that. I'm saying I have no future because the future I had doesn't look the same. I'm assigning this meaning of my whole past, and I had to get over this, but I was saying my whole 25 years of marriage was a lie, right? It meant nothing. Everything, I never will trust life again because blah, blah, blah. I was doing that to myself, like assigning that meaning. And after I watched that video, I went, no, it has no meaning. It doesn't have to mean anything unless I assign it to something. Right. What it means is today I'm free, I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm joyous, I'm at peace. And that's all that matters.
Right.
You don't have to assign it any other meaning.
Well, I think sometimes people, you mentioned victim thinking earlier, people believe that things happen to them. Yes. Poor me, this happens to me. And really what you're seeing now, I think, is that things happen for you. Yes. And things always happen for us if we believe that the universe is a friendly place. Einstein said that at one time back in whenever he was in the 20s. He said the most fundamental decision we have to make as human beings is the universe a friendly place? Because if we believe that the universe is not a friendly place, we will find evidence to prove that that's correct.
Yes.
But if we believe that the universe is a friendly place, then everything that comes out of that decision will prove that we are right in that decision too. And that's decision. You can decide something as fundamental as that, which is what you've done, Lori. You've decided that my past will not dictate my future.
Right.
And when you kill off the other options, it's not that you're, like you said earlier, you're not always going to be happy all the time. Things are not going to be perfect all the time, because we're human. And the human existence is not about perfection. It's about what do we do in our vulnerability? How do we, as Brene Brown says, rumble in that space that's not perfect? And if we try to get to solution before we try to rumble through the problem, then we're never, ever going to learn anything. And then things will continue to happen to us instead of for us.
That's right.
So it's a fundamental decision.
Yes. And it shows up in our lives everywhere, doesn't it? It shows up financially, it shows up at work, it shows up in our family, it shows up in our spiritual life, it shows up in our health. The same people that you run into that live in that victim mentality, that everything is happening to them, it shows up everywhere in their life. You know, my children don't love me, my job is bad, I'm overweight, you see it in every single place. Those of us that are different, when you look at us and go, oh, that person is successful, or that person is thin, or that person is whatever, it's not because we have any different DNA than anybody else does. It's exactly what Jody just said. We just decide that it's not going, that is not okay for us. That is not okay. You can.
And I love that you said for us.
Huh?
Because there's no judgment to it. And I think when you really get that, Lori, you're saying it's not about what they choose or not. You're saying it's not okay for us.
Right.
And you don't occur to me as judgmental in the least, because people have the opportunity to choose whatever they choose. And if you want what Lori has, Lori didn't just get lucky, you guys. There's a whole lot that goes on behind the scenes when people occur as lucky. That overnight sensation, right? There's 10,000 hours of planning and work that it takes to become an overnight success.
That's right. I told a story the other day. I did a really a life story kind of video, and I was sharing the fact that, and I do that exactly for this reason, because people have to understand that every single one of us that you look at ever as having something that you wish you had, or you're doing some sort of comparison, they came from somewhere, they experienced somewhere. I told this story the other day. You know, my father left when I was a baby. We were completely broke. My mom married many times. We had boyfriends in and out of the house. The girls were sexually molested. My mom was clinically depressed. She was suicidal all the time. My grandfather killed himself. We grew up in a very depressed household. It was very scary. Sorry to my mom who might watch this, but she knows it was just really dark. It was, and to no fault of her own, right? This is a medical condition, a physical condition. And at every phase, as long as I can remember, I had to decide what meaning that had. I had to decide, what does this mean that my mother wants to die every day? What does this mean now that I have this clinical condition and that has been passed down? What am I going to do with that? I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder at 17 years old. You know, I had a choice. My sister also was, and she chose to go that route and to be heavily medicated and have a service dog and do all those things. And I'm sorry, but I do believe it's a choice. I believe medical conditions are true. They are absolutely, I believe, and validate that depression can be a very clinical thing. And at the same time, the more we give that victim, the more we give that label energy, the more we can just melt in our own, sorrow and stuff and sickness. And I was talking to my daughter last night about it. We were driving around. We were talking about the family illnesses, because my younger daughter suffers from depression now, and we were discussing it. And I said, I'm crazy. I have my own level of crazy, like everybody else does. We joke about the crazy, and I just choose and decide where to put that energy. I still use it. It's still there. I just choose to use it in a different way. I use it for the highest level of creativity you could possibly have. I mean, most of your big business owners and entrepreneurs have some level of crazy. We just choose what to do with it, how to use it. That makes it different, And there are different personalities. Some of us are just more active and A personalities, result oriented than others, and so it makes it a little bit easier for us to throw it into business where somebody else
Sure.
doesn't.
And again, going back to what we said earlier about comparison, there is no need to compare ourselves to anybody. Lori, you're such a great example, yet you are an extreme example of what can happen when you get laser focused, and that's fantastic. So everybody watch what Lori's teaching and what she's doing, because that's possible for you. And if you're not quite yet at the awareness piece where you can say, I too have that ability, just take, I'm not kidding you, one step in the direction of your dream, one baby step. And sometimes you can allow yourself to look over your shoulder and see where you've been, but don't turn around. If you just look behind you to see how far you've come, that's a great opportunity. It's like I have this story about going to a movie on like opening night. Let's say there's a huge movie where you really want to see it, and you drive up to the theater and there's this long line because it hasn't started yet. And you're like, oh man, do I really want to see this movie this badly? Oh, I don't want to get in that long line. You get in the long line and then you look around and you're like, oh crap, I'm leaving because this is too long a line. But you drive around the parking lot and you come back and go, no, I really do want to see it. And then you say, look at the line now, and it's way longer than it was. What if you would have just gotten in the line and stayed there? And so then you get in the line and you're standing in line, waiting, and you about 5 minutes later, you look behind you and you go, wow, look at how many people are behind me because I just stayed in this line. I'm going to get there if my burning desire in this case is to see that movie on opening night. But so often we go, oh, it's too much work. I don't want to do it. Oh, I really didn't want that anyway. And then we are living in regret because we didn't follow our hearts and we didn't follow our dreams. So when you just take that one step and you say, I'm going to stand in this line no matter how long it takes, then there's somebody up in the front of the line who says, hey, I see you've been standing here. Come on, you can sneak in with me. And you're like, what? Really? I can get in early? Well, yeah, because you were willing to do whatever it took. You will see shortcuts appear when that willingness takes over.
Great points. Yesterday I did an interview with my Outdesk. They're a virtual assistant company.
Okay.
And they interviewed me on SEO, content marketing, kind of the stuff that I do. And he asked me, he said, why aren't there more of you? Why don't we have more real estate agents that are doing all this SEO stuff? Because it's really rare. And I said, well, besides the technological aspect that not everybody wants to do, there's no instant gratification. And I think that is a problem in our world today, is that people are used to instant results, right? And like you just said with standing in line, they're not willing today anymore to stay put, do the work, put in the discipline and the consistency to see the results show up getting into the movie, right? And if they'd have just stayed in line, they'd have gotten to that front and they'd have been in there. And before you know it, the line behind them was longer than the line in front of them. Exactly. And that's the exact same thing that I said. You put it more eloquently. But yes, that's true. It's just a matter of doing the work. Now, going into 2019, how are you guiding your clients, and you're doing coaching and stuff? What are you telling people that 2019, I've got my game plan. I know exactly where I'm going, but if I didn't, where would you tell somebody to start?
I think it starts with a simple question. What do you want? Sounds so simple. If I do this a lot with people, and I'll just say, if I could wave a magic wand right now and I could say, hey, you can have whatever you want. It's so surprising to me how few people know anything, and I'll say, just pick something. I don't even care. Pick one thing. What do you want? And if you can answer that question, that's the first step. Because then the second question is, what are you willing to do to get that? And that's really interesting. If you say, let's just say health, you said, I want to lose 50 pounds. Great. So question 2, currently, what are you doing to get that? And that's usually when they say, well, I'm eating cookies and I'm sitting on the couch. Dang. Because so then question 3 is, how is that working? How is what you're currently doing working to get what you say you want? Because the fourth question is, what could you do differently? And that's where I come in to help. What could you do differently? But I think the real stopping point is that people only want things. They're not committed, like we just said. They only want them. And if you only want something, you'll want it forever, because you're not willing to become the person to whom what you want can be attracted.
Right.
If you think about your life is a square, and everything you currently have and everything you currently, like all your friends, your family, your stuff, everything you have is in this box. That's your life. So by definition, everything you want is outside the box, right? It makes sense. You don't have it currently, so you want it. Well, the only way you can get what you say you want is to increase the box. So you become the person to whom that thing, experience you want, it can't help but be attracted. And then it's just moving from wanting, which is passive, to a different way of thinking about intention, because intention is doing what you say you will do until something else draws your attention. The squirrel, squirrel. So intention, while we can put great intentions into the universe, yes, that's one way to think of it. We also hear people say, oh, I intended to send that thank you card. Man, I intended to do that. Oh, I had such good intentions, because the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? So you move from want to intention, which is a little bit more active, and then the actions you take will be reflective of your intention. But when you really want to see it come true, you go to commitment. Commitment is doing what you say you will do towards your goal, or being willing to do whatever it takes, even when the emotion you set it in wears off, without violating the rights of other people. So that's a long definition, but that's the definition of commitment I try to get clients to understand. Are you really committed to this, or are you just interested? Because there's a lot of interest, not a lot of commitment.
Such great points. I always like to give real life examples of where that has shown up maybe for me. And real estate's a great example for me, because I don't think I knew what I wanted for a starting point. Somebody's at your door.
Oh, okay.
You have a point?
Go for it. Nope, go ahead.
Okay. So I don't think I knew what I wanted, other than I was coming off of, we had built a huge company. We sold it for a lot of money. And a lot of people have heard me tell the story. We had a couple years of, we didn't know what we were going to do. And we live in Vegas. We wound up kind of moving into the casino. And we blew through all of our money, honestly. Bad decisions. That's where our life was at the time. And then got into real estate completely broke, not having any idea. And I think at the time, what I wanted, and this is interesting based on our conversation, what I wanted was not, and this is the mistake, I wanted to not live where I was. Mm-hmm. I wanted to not owe the IRS a bunch of money. I wanted to not be in a codependent relationship. I wanted to not, and guess what that does? That attracts more not.
All of it.
Right?
For sure.
And so I think I spent from 2007 until a couple years ago trying to build this real estate business and this team, and struggling all the way through it. I mean, I was on the stages and interviewed, and it looks so good, right? But I was the first one to share that, I'm not keeping a lot of money at the end of the day. I got a big team, but there's not a lot of profits. My husband and I are fighting. Like, I share it all the time so that people don't think it's some kind of dream life. But I realized I never, ever wanted any of that. That is not the life that I was choosing, but I was, because I just kind of was like, oh, by default, my husband dragged me in. And so now I'm here. And really, that's kind of a victim thought process. So at some point, the fact that I was functioning off what I didn't want, it's going to break. That path's going to break. And it finally did. And luckily it did, because I think there was interference. I think God, universe, everything interfered and said, stop. You are going the wrong direction. That is not what you actually want. And I had to get really focused on what I did want. And then I had to become the person that deserved to have what I wanted.
Exactly. I heard Cheryl Richardson, who's a life coach, say that everything comes to us we get messages all the time. We get information from God, source, universe all the time. And we get it either as a message. If we don't get the message, we get a lesson. If we don't get the lesson, we get a problem. And if we don't get the problem, we get a crisis.
That's so good.
And it's always there, because if you have faith, which is one of the chapters of Think and Grow Rich, if you have faith that things are happening for you, and that your higher self, God, universe is out for your good, the universe always has your back, then wake up to the messages before you have to get the lessons and the problems and the crisis. It's so much easier when you can start noticing things like if you're driving and you have a thought about something and then you look up and all the lights turn green ahead of you. Go back and go, what was I just thinking? Oh my gosh, could that be a message? Because all those lights just lit up. There are so many messages out there that are there for our greater good.
Did you see my post the other day about messages from the
I
universe?
don't think I did. Tell me.
And it's so funny. I'm sorry. I keep wiping my eyes. I have the worst allergies. You know, this
Oh,
vague.
I've heard it's bad in Vegas.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's, I'm drinking throat coat tea just to get through the interview because I'm not sick. You know, it's just that thing. Anyway, so I'll just share this. I was coming from the gym and I actually said a prayer in my car. And I was looking at this big business decision that I'm making and this pivotal change. And I was saying to myself, you know, like, if it's just me, I know where to go. If it's just me, I know exactly where to go to fill my soul and my heart and my energy and my finances. I got this. But I have a lot of other people I have to, I feel like I'm taking care of or that are in my organization that are benefiting. And I don't want to make a decision that destroys their opportunity or possibilities. So that is where I get concerned. It's never for myself. I got me. But I'm worried about, I want to make sure that I don't make a decision that pulls the rug out from what they're doing either. Even if that isn't what I want to be careful not to pull that away from them.
Sure.
So I was,
Go ahead, finish.
Well, I wanted to praying and I said, give me a sign that this move I'm about to make is the right direction. And I turned on the radio and it said, get out the way, bitch.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, you need it like that, Lori. That's the kind of language that works for you.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And I was just laughing because, man, God is so cool because, right? I mean, smack me in the face with don't, and the way I took that was keep going, but don't get in the way of yourself at the same time. Yeah. You know, because I just kind of am one of those people that I'll just shut something off overnight instead of giving it the chance to do whatever. And my message was, okay, bring this to everybody, talk about it, but maybe let the team kind of take this and you move out of the way a little bit.
I love it.
Move it forward if, you know, so I just kind of got out of the way. Okay.
That's great.
I'll see
that's
where
so
that
great.
goes.
That's so great. I love that story. And when your awareness is going to continue to grow because we all are going to get redirection if we need it. And we'll get, signs and signals to stay on the path. It's so cool. And sometimes it is as obvious as a song on the radio. That's so great. And sometimes you mentioned about worrying earlier, and that's what triggered me to think about how fear and worry can mask as each other sometimes. In the end of Think and Grow Rich, the epilogue, the whole epilogue is on outwitting the ghosts of fear. And so back in 1930, you got this book, 1937.
I'm going to reread.
It's so good. So he talks about how fear can paralyze us. And we have so many signposts that show up for us against what we don't want, like you said. And it's just, that's not how we need to think. It's the first word in the title is think and grow rich. So just everything you're talking about are principles. And principles, when we hear principles for success, like you're doing right now, you just nod because you're like, yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
Desire makes sense. Decision makes sense. All these things that Napoleon Hill was so great at putting together make sense. But the next part of this interview, Lori, next time we talk, there's a story behind the story. Just like there's a story behind the Lori Ballen story, there's a story behind Napoleon Hill, what was really going on in his life when he wrote this book in 1937. He wrote another book called Outwitting the Devil.
Yes.
That came out in 1930, or was written in 1938, but didn't get published till 2012 because it was so controversial. But that's when you hear the story behind everything. So when you see Lori Ballen on stage at Keller Williams events and she looks all shiny, but there's something going on behind the scenes, that's where we connect with people's vulnerability, not their perceived perfection. And I love the story behind the story because that's where we can find out that, oh, you mean I could do this too? Mm-hmm. Yep. Everybody, yep, you can.
That's right. Oh, Jody, you've been fabulous. Tell everybody where talk about the University of Life University.
LifeWorks University.
LifeWorks University. Okay, what is that? So that everybody knows.
So it's kind of up and coming. We're working on it. It's an opportunity to take the principles of Think and Grow Rich and put them into a daily action plan for your life based on these principles of Think and Grow Rich in areas of health, financial, understanding of things for ourselves. We can talk about relationships, all kinds of foundational elements in your life that you can take classes about online. You can learn more about. And go to lifeworksu.com and find out more information about this. It's a global network of people who are up to the same things we're talking about right here. So much fun.
Fantastic. Anything else you want to tell them that you do or to find you?
Yeah. You mentioned Facebook. It's been 10 years that I've been writing every day for me. Every day I get quiet and I think, what do I need to know today? And I just put it on Facebook on my own page for me. And I've got so many people like you who say, oh man, that was such a great message. Well, it's all for me. I'm just grateful to share with other people. So if you want to find me on Facebook, it's just Jody Bock, JODEEBOCK. And I'd love to connect there. Or my website is Bock's Office, BOCKS office.com, where you can find out more about my coaching and consulting and training.
And how about Box Talks?
Bach Talks. So Bach Talks is my new podcast that just launched last week. BOCKTALKS, Bach Talks. And there are some cool interviews coming up there. I hope, Lori, you'll be on my podcast soon.
Oh, I'd be honored. I'm excited. I saw that and I think that was such a clever name too. And I love what you're doing and doing the interviews. So I'm excited watching you grow all of this as well. So you've been absolutely wonderful for our audience and for me. You're definitely inspired me as well. And I'm going to reread that book because I think that's a fantastic place to start. And we're always growing and have to stay on this journey of improvement, personal improvement. And
so along those lines, Lori, in January or February, I'm going to be doing a virtual 8-week study of Think and Grow Rich in a mastermind setting. Yeah, where people might want to come together with other people to study it. So watch for that. It's an 8-week study, and it'll be virtual, so we can.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. All right, thank you so much for joining me today. Have a great weekend and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Same to you and to everybody else out there. Thank you, Lori.
Goodbye, everybody.